All right, so I've been kind of busy with some stuff this year, and I wanted to get back into talking about long-range rifle shooting. And so I thought I'd go over the equipment I've been working with this year. I had some pretty cool opportunities come up at the beginning of the year. I had a trip planned to go to Idaho to get together with some friends and do some long-range shooting. And towards the beginning of the year, I had the opportunity to get my hands on this rifle to work with that. And because of what it is, and because I had also an opportunity to join a range that had targets out to a mile, I decided to go ahead and just kind of go full speed into getting into ELR shooting. So ELR meaning like extended or extreme long range. I've been wanting to shoot a mile or more for a long time and didn't really have the equipment for it. And so since this came up, it was like the perfect opportunity to get started at it. So I'm going to go over what I've got here and I'll talk about how I use this setup and what I was able to get done with it, right? So what this is an Accuracy International AXSR multi-caliber rifle. The way I understand it, it's basically descended from Accuracy International's efforts to try to get the SOCOM sniper rifle contract secured. So this was, I think, a descendant of their submission rifle and ended up being a commercial rifle, for sale. And it allows you to go from a short action, say like 6mm, 6.5 Creedmoor, 308 cartridges, up to 300 Win Mag, 300 PRC, and then up to 300 Norma, 338 Lapua class cartridges. You can change the barrel by loosening up the screw in the receiver and then threading the barrel off by hand. And then you have to change out the bolt depending on which class of cartridge, what case head size you're going to. There's 3 different bolts for it. You just swap out the firing pin between the bolts, change the bolt, and then change the magazine to match whichever cartridge you're using. And so, there's different barrel lengths available, and it's a pretty simple, quick process to change out the calibers. So it really makes for a versatile rifle. It's got a folding, fully adjustable stock. You can adjust the length of pull and the height and tilt of the butt pad, and also the height of the cheek rest, and you can adjust it forward and backwards, side to side, adjust it by twisting it. You really can kind of custom fit the rifle to the shooter. This rifle's also got a 2-stage trigger, which is really an excellent piece. It's about a 2-pound, 4-ounce trigger, but about 1.5 pounds of that is take up of the first stage. So once you get the first stage taken up to the wall, you get about 10, 12 ounces left on the trigger pull, and then to break the shot. This one's got a 27-inch Bartline barrel, and it's chambered in 300 Norma Magnum. I have liked working with the 300 Norma Magnum cartridge. I think there's some debate about whether it's really an advantage over the 300 PRC. There's some downsides to working with it, but I think that on the extreme end, you can get a little more performance out of the Norma than the PRC, but you're also paying like twice as much for factory ammo, and you're getting a barrel life of like maybe 800 to 1,000 rounds with the Norma. So there are some trade-offs to working with that, but the Norma is still running a 30 caliber bullet, and it allows you to run heavy for caliber, long, high BC bullets, right? So whereas with my 308 load, I'm running a 175 Match King at about 25-50 feet per second. With the Norma, I got a 55 grain heavier high BC bullet, so it's a 230 grain Hornady A-tip, and I've got double the powder charge in this one. So it's going 400 feet per second faster than this 308 with the 175. So I'm getting about 2950 feet per second with this 230 grain A-tip out of this Norma. The ballistics on that are substantially better than something like a 308. The drop at 1,000 is like half what it is on the 308, and it just gets better from there. I think at a mile, which is kind of sort of the outer limits of what this 308 can do, the 308's like 33 mils of drop, and the 300 Norma is like 14. So it's a pretty substantial cartridge. It's really a popular cartridge in the ELR shooting. So I've enjoyed working with it so far and had really good results. So on top of it, I've got a zero compromise 5-27. It's a 36 millimeter tube, and it's got about 35 mils of adjustment, total travel for the reticle. It's sitting in a spur 20 MOA scope mount, and the rail on top of the rifle is 20 MOA built into it. So I've got 40 MOA total in the mount system, and that gives me all but about 9 mils of the travel that's available internally in the scope. And so to be able to push this thing on out to the far end, which is what I did with this, was I shot it at 1.5 miles when I took it out to Idaho, and had some success with it. I shot a 26-inch plate at 1.5 miles, and I was on the plate by the third round, and I shot 15 rounds total and had 5 hits out of the 15. Made a few mistakes with my fundamentals, threw a few wild shots, and then the rest of it was kind of chasing the wind a little bit. But anyway, to get out to that distance, right, with this rifle, I'm running out of the travel in the scope. So to be able to deal with that, I use this Night Force wedge, which is a prism optic, right? And this mounts on the rail in front of the scope, and this shifts the image that's coming, through the scope up by 14.5 mils. So in Idaho, this would have been like taking my zero from 100 yards to about 1,800 yards just by putting this optic on in front of the scope. And then, that allowed me to just dial up the extra elevation I needed to get out to, I think I was at about 29 mils of elevation at 1.5 miles. So this is a nice thing to have. There are some different ways to deal with running out of the mechanical limits of your scope. You can go to an adjustable scope mount. There's a company that makes an adjustable scope mount that lets you tilt the scope down by a certain amount of MOA, to where you can actually get beyond your ability to zero at 100 yards. There's this option, which is just a fixed 14.5 mil prism, and then there are some other options that are adjustable. There's a type of a mount. There's a type of an optic that goes on in front of the scope that allows you to adjust how much elevation is sent into the scope, like by moving the image, right, with the optics. This is kind of the mid-priced option, but it's also the simplest, right, because I can just pop this on the rail and take it back off without adjusting my zero and without having to get any kind of crazy adjustable scope mount or anything like that. I also have a Thunder Beast bipod on this, which has been a great bipod. It's the first time I ever worked with one of these, but this bipod works good. It's really stable, pretty heavy duty. It still allows you to adjust the tilt of the rifle to make sure your crosshairs level. Let's see, the last thing is I'm running a Thunder Beast Ultra 338 suppressor on it. I run this all the time. It's a great suppressor. It's got a really good sound reduction, and the point of impact shift is really minimal with this. It just threads on to this brake, but it's worked really good for me. I think Thunder Beast makes probably one of the better, if not the best, precision rifle suppressors out there. So that's what I was running. This is the setup I used for 1.5 miles. This rifle has been really great. It's got an excellent return to zero. Like, take the barrel off, put it back on. I don't have to change zero. It's within 1/10 every time. So I think that's about it for the rifle. I've got, obviously, the Kestrel that I've been using. I've talked about this in some videos before, but I use the Applied Ballistics Kestrel, and this thing has given me accurate data. I used that and was able to shoot this rifle out to 1 mile at my home range. And I took the time to confirm all my data out to 1 mile. I made sure that I matched all that up in the Kestrel and got my ballistics trued up. And then when I went out to Idaho and shot 1.5 miles, that gave me accurate data. I mean, what it predicted for the 1.5 mile shot was basically within 1/10 of a mil, within a click on the scope. I was using this rangefinder. It's a Vectronics Terrapin X. This is a really good rangefinder. It's kind of expensive as handheld rangefinders go, but this thing was able to give me repeatable range on a 26-inch plate at 1.5 miles, and that can be challenging for some rangefinders. Getting a range on a target that small at that distance can be difficult. This thing works pretty good in bright sunlight. It's performed pretty well for me every time I've used it. It doesn't give you anything fancy like ballistic information, but it will Bluetooth to the Kestrel, and it'll transfer the range, the direction of fire, and the inclination to the Kestrel. Right? You can also link an app to it through the phone and then fire it from the phone to get your range, so that you're not, when you start trying to range things at a long distance, sometimes just the press of a button is enough to move the rangefinder enough to screw up your ability to range with it. So anyway, this is what I've been shooting with lately. It's a really great setup. I know it's kind of an extreme end of the spectrum as far as that goes, but this was just something that worked out. I was able to get my hands on this, and it's really been a pretty incredible rifle to shoot with. So I'll come back later and talk about ELR shooting and like what I've learned through, attempting to do this, and what kind of things I think might be helpful for people who want to give it a try and kind of start pushing to the edges of what their equipment is capable of. So hopefully that'll help.